Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Nightreign. Today is finally the day that I rank the Nightfarers properly in your classic tier list format now that we've played them all and discussed them a lot. As you can see, for this list there is no D or lower, and that's because, well, no Nightfarer is distinctly banned. Though there are definitely ones that have more issues than others and some that stand out. So with that in mind, I have S down to C with only one Nightfarer actually being in C. But let me be very clear now that you can beat the game with everything, effectively, impressively, with all the classes. The only character in C has a clear DPS issue that you will feel compared to the rest, and that's why they're there. So I look forward to every comment being upset about his placement, having not listened to this. So let's begin with C and work our way up. The character down in C is, of course, the Guardian. Despite him being a fun, unique character with an effective playstyle at that, able to tank aggro better than most others, and certainly be able to take the hits and shove it and shunt it off. Despite the fact that he's reliable in his scaling options like Wilder, with quality scaling, meaning you're able to run a variety of weapons and setups. You're going to be held back from that variety by the fact that the scaling itself is bad, but also the fact that you want to use a shield, you want to lean into that, you want to upgrade that, and you want to lean into your Steel Guard passive, which is not all about putting out damage, which is where he distinctly falls behind. He does feature fantastic humanoid-based CC with his Whirlwind, especially in a group where you can charge that up, and a little nuke with his incredible revive and protection ability if you hold it for your allies. Nothing he has, though, does that much damage at all, even when you fully engage with his unique guard counter playstyle and boost that effectively. So in solo, I find his health scaling and tankiness is actually a really easy way to deal with most of the attacks in the game, but it comes at the cost of his ultimate not being that useful in solo, or his Whirlwind doing very little damage, and you're not really able to make effective use out of that CC compared to when you're in a team. This is logical because he serves a great place in a team as the support, which means he's not going to be as strong in other aspects such as DPS, and I think there's no denying that he has the lowest DPS in the game compared to every other Nightfarer and their average experience. So you should expect to have a fun, unique experience with Guardian, one that's safe and easy to play and survive on, one that's actually greatly helpful for the team throughout a run, but his output is simply low. I think we need to acknowledge that. He definitely shines when your team is struggling by taking the aggro, being a fantastic revive tool, a great CC'er, but this means that the worse your team is, the better Guardian's impact in the team becomes, which is awkward because as we get better at the game, the worse and less impactful he is. So he serves an important useful role with his unique playstyle, he's great at that, he's not a bad Nightfarer, you can do fantastic things on him, but he has clear problems compared to other Nightfarers. So what can you do? We now move up a tier to B tier with Revenant, with just one Nightfarer in this tier. A lot of people feel that she's terrible, a lot of people feel that she's really undervalued and is actually nuts, and I find the truth is somewhere in the middle because she's got a lot of potential, but sometimes it just doesn't go her way with drops, kind of a feast off famine situation. Now as the summon character, let's start with that. We have Sebastian and Frederick as great summons, especially when you do something cool like ulti and give the beam to Sebastian, and he does great DPS with that. I will say that Helen feels a lot worse than the other two, which is funny because she's one of those squire characters that fire the crossbow like a machine gun, so you'd think she'd be better than she is. I feel as the summon character, overall Revenant could be better by removing some of the limits on her function. Like say, you're always allowed to have Helen plus either of the other summons active at once. That would make more sense and feel a lot better. Then we have her summon passive, which lets you spawn in extra allies, which certainly can scale out of control and be useful while they're up. She's actually fantastic for clearing small camps because of this, because you kill lots of weak enemies and get a ton of these summons. But small camps and basic enemies are next to worthless almost instantly because you stop doing it in a run very early. Not only that, you have to get the last hit for this to work, and if you're in a team, people just don't care. I think a change to this could be a way to allow her spawns to always trigger, even if you're not the last hit, once every 3 minutes or something like that. Now we have her stats and scaling, which means she's great as a faith user with S scaling there, but noticeably worse as an intelligence user, and definitely not great with melee. You need a pure faith melee weapon to really go nuts with her in that way, so that's basically the coded weapons, or maybe her starting weapon, and that's it. Not to mention, her starting weapons are a claw weapon that's tagged as fists for some reason, so your claw passives from relics don't work. Stupid. Her scaling also becomes more offensive when you look at Recluse, who has S Faith scaling for some ungodly reason, making her a more reliable character to run if you're wanting to use Faith, because sometimes Faith stuff doesn't drop, and if you're playing Revenant, unlucky. If you're playing Recluse, I've still got S scaling in Intelligence. In my opinion, Recluse should have worse Faith scaling to balance this somewhat out if they're not going to buff Rev's Intelligence. Then you consider how Rev is very quickly FP starved, where Recluse just isn't. Recluse generates FP through her skill, and Rev hopes she finds some Starlight Shards or maybe runs melee with FP restored there, but you're not a proper melee character and you're very squishy. So to me, she has clear problems and feels unfinished. Still, with lots of potential, and then Misery on other runs, she's very up and down. So we'll see if they do something. Alright, so that brings us to the A tier. Let's start with one of my favourite characters, the Executor, who is just a versatile machine when it comes to dexterity and, of course, all things status. Though 4 of the statuses are incredible and 3 of them are trash, something to think about. Where he is good, when he is good, he's unbelievable. But there are aspects of him that are very questionable. So yeah, S-scaling dex means he's versatile with any proper dex weapon. You don't just have to use a katana, you could find some curved swords, twin blades, do some jump spam, it can be incredible. And with him being the status king with the S-scaling arcane, you're able to lean into any status ultra well, whether it's bleed this time, maybe poison, maybe rot or frost, and you maximize that. Sure, you can go into a run with a proper setup where maybe you've got a relic that gives you seppuku, actually triggering your passive, which is nice, and going hard into bleed and going well there. But I find what's most reliable with Executor is to be flexible. Maybe I start with a poison weapon on my beginnings, and then during the run, I find a frost weapon. Both weapons also have bleed on them, so I'm triggering poison, I'm proccing frost, they're taking more damage from all sources while frozen, and I'm bleed proccing them pretty often the whole time. Swapping between these is incredibly impactful, and it means that it's hard for him to have a bad run because you're going to get at least 1 or 2 of these every single time. The big downside for Executor is when you're facing an enemy that is actually resistant or immune to the type of status you're leaning into. For example, the final boss is immune to most of the statuses that you're going to care about, which means he's not going to get that value there. And there are other targets that are kind of similar with these resistances. So there's ups and downs there for sure, with a lot of potential. Then we get to his Cursed Blade. The entire concept of this character and what was so drawing about him, where you're going for those parries right as you're about to get hit, you're slowly unveiling the weapon, which is super cool. It gets this holy looking buff, you get a special attack, and you have incredible guard counter attacks, which you can boost, by the way, kind of like you're playing Guardian. And there are builds to just straight up focus deflection playstyle, which is really cool. You've got very forgiving parry timing, you've got great stagger build-up when you do it well, and a lot of control while you have the aggro. The deflections you can do are insane, all kinds of non-physical things can be deflected, like the sigils of Libra or the tier bomb explosions of Marius. But the output of the weapon itself is terrible. It feels like while it's charged up, it should be doing a lot more damage than it is. You don't get to benefit from any of the status you have on all your other weapons, a main part of this character. You are straight up nerfing yourself by fighting with the Cursed Sword. So I find that very strange, and I hope they do something to improve the Cursed Sword in specific. There's no denying though that Executor has one of the best ultimates in the game, an unbelievable tool for building up stagger, for giving yourself a massive heal or doubling your health in general. It's a panic res tool because you're able to very easily resurrect all your team while in wolf form, especially if you do the AoE roar. It's also a distance closer because you've got the massive distance you can make with the dash jumping technique. What keeps Executor from being S tier in my opinion is the fact that many Night Lords are resistant to certain statuses, and that the Cursed Sword has quite a lot of problems. Next up in A tier we have Raider, which, you know, personally is not my favourite character in the game. This is not my favourite playstyle, but that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge that it's very strong and very reliable. He simply works and provides reasonable damage reliably, and you can do that every run, every time. This is because he has S-scaling strength, which means all of the strength weapons, of which there's a bunch to be offered to you, you're going to do well with it. The thing is, you can two-hand a strength weapon and get a load of passives to enhance that, or you can power stance 2 strength weapons and just do jump L1 spam, or just absolutely smack with that double hit combo, building up ridiculous stagger as well as great DPS. That is essentially all of you going to be doing with this character. I find that monotonous and kind of boring. Some people absolutely love that. And again, you can't deny that it's very impactful and very easy as well. Also, we got to talk about his character skill. That Retaliate, it's on a really short cooldown, and I think it's underrated by a lot of people. It's the fact that you basically can iframe with it, you take a hit with it, and you get to guarantee a stagger, a mini one, meaning you're actually great at taking aggro for a while before it inevitably goes to someone else, and then you get back to doing big hits and big stagger build-up, which again helps your team. Also, the character just comes with a great health pool, a massive stamina bar, which means you can really always do what you need to or want to. He's just ultra effective every run. He's one of the most stable characters in the game. And while he's not my favorite character and not my favorite playstyle, that is strong and it deserves an acknowledgement. Okay, so next up in A tier, we have Duchess, who is fantastic in some areas, a bit of a struggle in others, but overall it makes for a very balanced and fun character. Of course, a big part of this comes down to her improved iframes, the special Bloodborne-esque dash which you can do as a double dash, or that really funny, awesome backstep. So while she has a lower health pool compared to most Nightfarers, and so you will be very much punished by any mistake, that dodge and the ability to just spam it and have such insane iframes, especially if you find that one dormant power that extends those iframes, it's so strong. And then you're going to lean into the dagger playstyle, which means fast attacks. Successive build-up for damage, or even better, damage negation, actually makes her quite tanky, and she becomes such an easy character if you get that offered to you. Where she shines the most though is of course her character skill Restage, which is a brilliant tool for DPS, especially when used well around your team's burst. Is of course that basically half of the damage done in the last few moments, done again. If you time it well, you could do it after a status proc, which is super satisfying. You have ways to trigger that restage more often thanks to relics, like the one that triggers restage at the end of a full dagger attack combo, which I really like. This skill is extremely impactful in a team setting when you're communicating your burst whenever that restage is available, which will skyrocket the team's general output, which is also very fun to do. Even poor use of the skill is still going to be extra damage, wouldn't exist otherwise, and could be done from safety, which is phenomenal. In solo, I still find her incredibly reliable and fun to play, and I've done many of the bosses with her. The iframes are ridiculous, and you can set up your own combos and restage that no problem anyway. But when we think about her ultimate, the invisibility tool, there are absolutely aspects that are amazing here, like using it as you're about to take a hit to iframe any nasty boss attack, or make it super easy to revive allies while you're invisible, or set up for an easy burst combo because the enemy can't see you, especially in solo this is very effective. You get to do a full combo and restage it. It doesn't exactly have direct offensive use, but you can use it for that purpose. It's definitely a bit more meh in group play at the best of times. You go invisible and you end up having to dodge attacks anyway. It's when I find use in niche situations, which is fun and impactful at the right time. But it's kind of like what we said about the Guardian as a whole. It relies on the situation to be bad to see better value, which means it's not one of the best ults. When it comes to the character and her scaling though, she does have solid intelligence scaling, which means you could do a full-on caster run if you want, if you get good drops. Maybe instead you lean hard into the dex aspect, daggers, successive hits, a mix of the two, lean into status. Personally, I love the frost setup that triggers a little invis on its proc, which is really fun. So she's very versatile in her ability to use solid dex melee weapons, to be an intelligence scaler. It's hard to have a bad run with her, as long as you're a little flexible with the drops and the playstyle. Alright, the end of A tier is here, and finally I'm putting in Recluse, the real faith user apparently. With semi-unlimited FP, you can absolutely spam the strongest incants or spells in the game should you find them. Where others are definitely limited more by their FP, Recluse doesn't really have that problem. The output is nuts if you have the right spell option, and since you have S scaling in both faith and intelligence for some reason, it's easy to get the right setup with the right passives and get that real, well, unreal DPS. It doesn't happen every run, but your baseline's always good and the potential's always there. Sure, she has a smaller health pool compared to others, but she comes with a unique dodge evade, which has incredible travel distance on it, fantastic for avoiding damage, and repositioning. The downside for her, I would say, is the longer animations, especially some of the more impactful spells. Even her own character skill. Timing is important then, aggro's a problem, and that means she performs way better in a group compared to solo, where she struggles a lot more because, yeah, more interruptions. Her ultimate definitely can be an impactful iframe dodge with that in mind, and provides her with that desperate FP regen the team needs, the health sustain. It is good. She does also have some interesting effects through her relics, like dropping Terra Magica on herself for increased damage, casting her ultimate but triggering Bloodlust when she does. So the character herself, her skill, her ultimate, all her options are very interesting. Some of the effects and setups you're going to get are going to be really awesome and fun. And with her character skill in the RNG with that, some of the spells you'll get from that are going to be alright. So to get to the point, she's unreal in a good team who actively helps her function. And she's nowhere near as good in solo when the pressure's all on you. So for those reasons, I think A tier fits her better than S. But that brings us to S tier, where we're going to talk about 2 Nightfarers, and I'm going to get to the point because I think we all know it. Starting with Wilder, arguably the best solo character and fits in any team every damn time. He's just the most versatile guy. He's the all-rounder. Great health, great stamina, great FP potential. You've got Ash of War spam. You've got stagger potential, lean into strength weapons. Quality weapons thanks to his quality scaling. He's not bad with dex weapons. He's just hard to have a bad run on. Then he has all kinds of perks, whether it's death dodging through his passive, whether it's claw shot for the great mobility that has with the jump trick, or interrupting an enemy to help your ally get DPS, pull a shield off a shielded enemy, gap close, outrange damage, completely iframe damage with your ultimate with its 2 versions, the fast one that you can use as a movement tool, or the charged interrupt for the longer iframes on demand. Massive AoE damage potential, especially if you leave the fire down from the relic. He's always effective, he's one of the best characters in solo, and always good in the team. So we all know that, he's S tier. Let's just get to I. Yes, I also S tier, obviously. He is the most reliable constant DPS in the game, and maybe not the highest DPS, but like I said, reliable and also easy. So he's one of the most popular characters for those reasons alone. The thing is, you get way better DPS if you actually fight in effective range, you actually use the aiming mode to aim at weak points whenever possible, such as the heads and eyes, by mixing in a little bit of a dex melee setup, mixing and matching the ranged and melee playstyle for peak results. Having a weapon that has, say, the weakness of the boss, so you're always proccing that stun or debuff or whatever it is, and then getting back to range, where you can reliably apply status, like bleed or poison. If you get the rain of arrows set up with something like that, it can be incredible on a still target. You deal well with pressure when you have aggro, thanks to, of course, the character skill, the mark dash with the dagger. It's got ridiculous movement and iframes. You apply the mark, and that is a mini stun when it procs. It's great burst and DPS, and you can get 2 charges of this mark, which is the best thing to do since it's iframes on demand when you're getting pressured, and you can keep the mark active by reapplying it, which you want to do because you want to proc it. Your also constant fast ability to deal damage at range, even if in smaller numbers, is one of the most reliable forms of reviving a down player. So people love him for that too. His ultimate is insane as well. Ridiculous range, a massive AoE to it. You got iframes during it and you can hold it for really long. It could be a great stagger to interrupt a boss during something massive. It's an insane revive tool in AoE. A relic exists to make it a guaranteed poison proc. So his character skill's insane, his ultimate's insane, and his passive, it's one of the best in the game. It just means more drops for everyone. So he's literally always an asset to the team, even if the person playing him is doing so poorly. But yeah, there you have it. That's my current rankings of the Nightfarers compared to one another. I think this is the most reasonable take I can have while showing you the difference between the different Nightfarers. Most of them are very good. All of them are more than playable and could be everything in the game. I am interested to see if they ever do anything with the classes and their numbers, maybe rework aspects of them. Revenant and Guardian could use some help with that, I feel. But yeah, this is how I place them. Let me know what you think. And until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.